Hi, I'm Miles Goldsmith, and this is my podcast, Game Design Hour, where I interview the people behind the video games that you love. On today's episode, I'm interviewing Liz Macdonell. She is one of the amazing people behind the video game Operation Tango. Before we get into today's episode, I wanted to let you know about today's sponsor, Hoffman's Woodstuffs. They specialize in the design and fabrication of custom furniture made from reclaimed or sustainably sourced hardwoods. They also make custom goods and gifts for any occasion. You can find them on Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs. You can also find their website using the link in the description. Stick around until the end of the episode to find out how you can get 20% off your next order. Let's get into the interview.
Hi there, how's it going?
How you doing?
I'm doing good, thank you. It always does this where I play in a D&D show every week, and so my username on Zoom is my character's name. And every time I have to figure out how to rename myself to my actual name, change that because everyone's like, who's Lydia? And I'm like, it's my D&D character. Don't worry about it.
So when did you first realize you wanted to work on video games?
So I've really loved video games ever since I was a kid. My first console growing up was a PlayStation 2. So it was a lot of days of fighting with my younger brother about who got to play Spyro, and my dad having to set a timer on the oven. So we would know when it was time to switch. I have always had this love of video games, but I thought, it's just a hobby. Like, it's something I love to do. Like, I can't make that into a career. And then I realized, hey, wait a minute. I actually have a lot of this experience in customer service and accounts management and social media and marketing. Wait a second. I can do this and still, play video games and get to be in the video game industry, which is something that has just been such a blessing. And I absolutely adore it. And I get to do something I love every day, and I'm really thankful for it. But yeah, ever since I was a kid, I've loved video games. There was always this mental block of, wait, but that can't be a career. It's something I enjoy doing. But yeah, it's been great to find my way into such a magical industry.
What were some of the first few video games you worked on, and what lessons did you learn from working on them?
So I'm actually brand new in the video game industry. I joined the CleverPlays team back in November, right in the middle of the pandemic. And that was because I had a classic 9-to-5 office job doing marketing for actually newspapers and print media. But unfortunately, due to the pandemic, we ended up getting laid off. And I used that time to really hone my skills and give it a go to be able to be in an industry that I love, doing a job that I love, in a career that I want to see myself doing for the rest of my life. So Operation Tango, which is our game that just came out, is the first video game that I've been lucky enough to work on professionally. But I've been members of a community for a bunch of different games, very specifically Subnautica by Unknown Worlds was the first video game where I really dived into the community and fell in love with it, and really got my footing in that capacity. But professionally, Operation Tango is my very first baby.
How did the idea for Operation Tango originate?
Yeah, so our studio head and main game designer, Mathieu, he loves, and so do a lot of us in the studio, myself included, has always loved board games and tabletop games, especially cooperative ones where you're working with the person you're playing with. And we really wanted to create a video game that felt like that and had those similar elements of working together with your partner, and you can only do it if you actually work together, and make it sort of mix between a video game and a board game and an escape room, and bring that to a world where being able to find ways where you can play together but apart is so much more important nowadays than it ever has been before.
How does the original concept for the game differ from what ended up getting shipped?
The original concept of the game is very similar to what the end product ended up being, in that we had the ideas for these puzzles that were intricate and smart, but not repetitive, and ones that grow as you continue on in the story. Because Operation Tango is completely asymmetric and each character has their own screens, everything is going on one screen that is completely different from what the other player is seeing. It was essentially like building two games in one. And originally, those were a lot more similar, but we really wanted it to feel like a different experience playing as the agent versus playing as the hacker. So that's something that definitely differed in the end result.
What's one fun, interesting idea that ended up getting cut that you think fans would be amused by?
Well, I actually don't want to give away too much in case anything is revisited for future. But yeah, just playing around with the different locations. The game takes place in 2038. So not too far off in the future. It feels crazy to say that 2038 is not too far off in the future, but it isn't. We had a lot of fun imagining like what the world would look like in that time period and how technology is growing now. So more of those elements and just ideas of locations and things, we had to really nail down our favorite ones. So there's a few of those that got left behind for now or potentially.
So what is your process for creating one level?
The development side is a little bit different. I'm lucky that we're a very small studio. So as the community manager, I do get to work with the devs because we are a very tight-knit group. But in regards to the level design, it's interesting when you're doing an asymmetric game because you do have to think about it as one level from two completely different viewpoints, starting with, the hacker's side where, you're looking at different screens. What security cameras do you have access to? What can those security cameras see? And how do we relate that into the 3D world that the agent is walking through is something that requires a lot of forethought. And so you really have to have a good idea of what you want each character to have access to see and build it out from there. And then go in and add, okay, well, there's something preventing them from getting to this room. What's that something? What puzzle do we want to use here? Type of situation. And then building that puzzle so that it's something that is new and unique, or is taking a puzzle that they've done in previous levels and upping it a few difficulties.
Were there any interesting puzzles that ended up getting cut?
I can't think of any that ended up getting cut. I know that we released the demo of Operation Tango, which is the first mission in the game. It also acts as our tutorial, and in it features a puzzle in which you have to get a ball from one side of the screen to the other. And one character is controlling up and down, and the other is controlling left and right. And it's actually my favorite puzzle in the whole game because one of our first community streamers that played the demo absolutely hated it. And
that is the most difficult puzzle.
And the frustration, it still sits with me every time I think of that puzzle. I think of them, because there's a frustration that has so much joy in it. It was never something where they were actually angry or frustrated. It was this laughing the entire time of, wait, why can't we get this? And they said there better not be any more of these puzzles through the rest of the game or we're going to riot. And I'm sitting there knowing, oh, just you wait. So it's great to see how those puzzles evolve throughout the game. And yeah, so it's I don't think that there were any puzzle ideas that ended up getting cut from the game. They all make their appearance in one form or another, whether it's a really quick puzzle or something that takes a few minutes to navigate.
How did you come up with Cypher as the main villain? Were there any other interesting alternate main villains that ended up getting cut? It's always interesting to hear about alternate ideas for the game.
Yeah, so for Cypher, he's always been our main bad guy villain for the story. And the reason being is that a lot of people don't realize how integral your digital identity is nowadays, let alone how more integral it could be in 2038, where, having your digital identity erased. You think, well, that can't be that bad. But imagine losing access to absolutely everything you do electronic. It's your banking information, your email. A lot of people pay rent online, pay their bills online, go to school online. For me, I work remotely. If I had my entire identity digitally erased, well, I wouldn't have a job. So it's having a villain that is acting violently without violence was something that was a really cool concept to us, in that this character is wanting to, destroy lives, but there's no bloodshed. There's no, violence in that regard. So it's, he's always been an interesting fellow to see how cyber attacks and your digital information being kept safe is more and more important now than it's ever been, and it will be more important in the future as well.
What is your favorite level?
I'm torn because my favorite level mechanically is probably Mission 4, because that is when the hacker really gets to take center stage and go deep diving into the dark net. So mechanically to play, Mission 4 is probably my favorite. The entire studio is based out of Montreal, Quebec, but as I mentioned, I joined the team in the middle of the pandemic remotely. So I'm actually in Vancouver, BC. So Mission 2 takes place in my hometown, and it takes place in a call center. And I used to work in a call center. So imagining what that call center environment might be like in the future. And if you look outside to the skyline in Mission 2, you can actually see Science World, which is a very prominent building in our skyline. So it just makes me feel like nostalgic and like home. And it really makes this is a game that I helped make that, has a piece of me and a piece of my home in it. So in my heart, it's Mission 2, but gameplay wise, definitely Mission 4.
Do you have a least favorite level?
I wouldn't necessarily say least favorite. I have, as community manager, one of my jobs is to play the game with people who are needing to find a player 2 or don't have one, or playing with streamers or content creators. And because of that, I have played the demo mission so many times, Mission 1, that I could probably do it blindfolded and or while asleep. So I would say that's my least favorite to play now, but not because of gameplay or anything, just because I have played it thousands of times at this point. And it's the shortest one as well, because it acts as our tutorial.
Since it's a 2-player game, are there any plans to make an easy system for finding a player 2?
Yeah, so the reason that we didn't go with a built-in matchmaking system is the true heart and soul of Operation Tango is the experience of playing it with someone you know. Whether that be a friend, a loved one, your significant other, a sibling, a parent. And that was the intent behind making the game. We know that's not possible for everyone, but we wanted to make it as probable as possible in that it's completely cross-play across consoles to PC. We have a friend pass, so only one of you has to own the game. That friend pass is also cross-play. So if you want to play with your younger brother who's playing on Xbox, or, your significant other who is also on a PC, you can do that. And what we didn't want, because it is cross-play and, we offer 11 different languages and 2 different characters and 6 different levels, we didn't want people sitting and waiting in a queue for 35 minutes just to play. So what we do have is we have a great community on Discord where you can actually post that we have specific matchmaking channels where you can say, I'm looking for an English player. I'm trying to do level 4 as the agent. And you can team up with someone there. We do also have a thread on our subreddit for the same thing. So there are those options there for people to reach out if they don't already have a player 2. But we didn't want people getting frustrated with extremely long queue times. If you're looking to play Mission 3 as the hacker in Portuguese, we needed to make sure that there was an outlet for you to do that. It's just external rather than internal in the game.
Sorry to pop in here, but I wanted to let you know about today's sponsor, Hoffman's Woodstuffs. They specialize in the design and fabrication of custom furniture made from reclaimed or sustainably sourced hardwoods. They also make custom goods and gifts for any occasion. You can find them using the link in the description, or you can head over to their Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs. Stick around until the end of the episode to find out how you can get 20% off your next order. At the very end of the final level, you have to defuse the bomb. And in a way, the system of it felt very similar and seemed to pay homage to the VR game Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes. Were there any parts of other missions that paid homage to other games?
So Keep Talking and Nobody Explodes was a huge inspiration for us, and that's why they earned a spot in our special thanks in the credits as well, because we loved the idea of a game that required two people to save the world, essentially. But we wanted to make those two people feel like they had an equal weight, which is where the huge difference is when playing as hacker versus agent, is that you're both doing completely different things, but you're both equally important to the story. You have equal gameplay. You have equal mechanics. There's quite a few Easter eggs hidden throughout. A lot of our other inspirations for the game came from different media sources as well, specifically the early Mission Impossible films and those Hollywood spy movies where like the action is from the heist itself rather than violence. And a personal favorite of mine is the old Carmen Sandiego cartoons and video games, where you're traveling around the world as a super spy, like, you know, trying to figure out where in the world is Carmen Sandiego. So that was a huge influence as well. And for our AI, there's a short sci-fi film called Hyper Reality, which for the screens and what the hacker's seeing in the UI, it was very much seeing what life would be like if, you know, many years ago we had Google Glasses come out, but this is like if those continued and stayed in trend and went like above and beyond, where everyone was pretty much just living in AR, augmented reality, at all times. So those were a lot of the main inspirations for the game.
What was your biggest design/story challenge while working on Operation Tango, and how did you creatively rise to the challenge?
This ties back into the fact that the game is completely asymmetric. So we needed a story that could be told from two sides, but had a linear function. It had, you know, you're going through the same experience in the same story, but from a completely different viewpoint. So every time that we were trying to design levels, that we were writing story, it needed to make sense from both sides and it needed to be equal. The hacker usually has the more, you know, man in the chair type vibe, but with equal gameplay, you're not just sitting there reading, you're actually having to click on things, navigate on your own, and then the agent being the person in the field running through the 3D world for most of the missions. So the story is rather light for Operation Tango. It is just there as a baseline because what we really wanted is for people to create their own memories and their own laughter and experience of playing with a friend or a loved one who, you know, and learning how to communicate. And that's honestly the biggest puzzle, was one that we never made. And it's figuring out what your partner needs to know and what they can and can't see. Because once you've got that down, you know, you've cracked the puzzle. But it takes so many people to be like, well, no, you can't put it there. The robot's going to see me. And it's like, wait, what robot? I don't see any robots. What are you talking about? Well, there's robots. So coming up with a story that helps elevate those moments and gives meaning to them without overpowering them and just being completely only about the story was something that was really challenging. And I think we did a great job of.
Were there any small, interesting Easter eggs that you think most players might have missed?
There's quite a few. Specifically, the one that comes to mind is in Mission 2, when you're doing the employee access, where you can give your partner a digital identity. There's a lot of hidden Easter eggs based on the character designs in those. We are also partnered with the amazing folks over at HyperX. So there's quite a few HyperX Easter eggs. Those are a little bit more noticeable throughout the game as well. But yeah, our programmers and designers had such a fun time that I'm sure there's Easter eggs even I don't know about. And it's all about just finding them and, you know, having a bit of fun with that. But there's plenty hidden throughout.
What was the most difficult level to create?
I would say that probably the Mission 3, our train level, we wanted it to make sure that it had timed elements and was also a little bit able to free roam, and building it in 2 acts in, you know, finding the person that you need to find on the train to wait, the train's going to crash and we have to stop it. it was difficult to get that balance and make sure, as I said, that both characters had a completely active role, because the hacker isn't on the train. Only the agent is on the train. So we needed to make sure that the hacker was doing just as much when it came to helping to find the person that you're needing to find and solving the puzzles that you need to. So that was definitely a difficult one, but a fun one to see all the way through, because it turns out that that mission is a lot of people's favorite missions. So that's always great to see.
Can fans expect any more updates in the future? Maybe more levels, that sort of stuff?
Yeah, so right now we launched on PlayStation and PC June 1st and Xbox July 1st. So we are still right in the middle of launch craziness and making sure that we squash any bugs. And we do have an upcoming release on an Epic Games as well as a few other small PC platforms. So right now that's our main focus, and also just everyone to have a vacation. We've been working very hard on Operation Tango. So is there going to be more in the future? Potentially. Do I have any idea, like any shareable information about what that is? Not right now. And we absolutely adore everyone who is saying, oh, we need more missions right now. And I'm like, I would love to give you more missions right now, but we also need a vacation. And, we only launched a few weeks ago, technically. So just please be patient with us. We are a very teeny tiny team. Operation Tango is by no means a closed book in our minds. We adore working on it, and the likelihood that there is a continuation in some form or another is quite high.
What is the brainstorming process like for a level? Do you all get together and throw out ideas? How does that work?
So yeah, we actually do a lot of our work. We have a company Discord, believe it or not. And it's a great way to be able to all be in a call and share screens and just brainstorm and come up with ideas. And, where do you think this level should take place? Where does it make sense to take place? What can we do interestingly with our art style for that landscape? And then sort of build out what we want the story of the level to be, and then what puzzles we want featured in that level for each character. Like I keep saying, it is really, a lot of people say, oh, well, I wish there was more than 6 missions. But for us on the developer side, it's actually 12 missions because there's 6 agent missions and 6 hacker missions, and they have to work together at all times, every moment. Otherwise, the game doesn't work. So
what do you think the most difficult puzzle is?
Oh, the most difficult puzzle. So as the community manager, one of my favorite parts of the job is getting to watch content creators, big and small. We try to hop into as many Twitch streams as we can, just because we love watching people play Operation Tango, and we want to make sure that we're very connected with our community. Like, our digital door is always open. But the puzzle that I have seen people have the most trouble with, I would say, is probably the drones in Mission 2 and getting the timing right of like where you need to tell the agent to run and when they need to run. I've seen some people get that right away and they're like, okay, like I've got this. But for a lot of people, that's one of the most difficult ones, because you're not looking at the same screen. Most of the puzzles, the mini puzzles, you are looking at the same screen. It's that you're working together to make that mechanic happen and to get past that puzzle. But for this particular one in Mission 2, like the agent is solely reliant on the hacker, and the hacker can't see where the agent is. So you can't just be like, okay, now go right. Wait a second. Okay, now go. Because you have to have blind faith that your agent took the right, or, went through the right doors, going the right speed. So that is probably the most difficult one for players to really grasp and to make their way through.
What do you think the most difficult mission is?
I would probably say, this is a tough one, because Mission 4 is very fast paced and there's a lot to read all at once. A lot of the missions really give you time to just look around and digest everything that you're seeing, figure things out at your own pace. but Mission 4 sets the pace because you're, as the hacker, consistently moving. You are just going. So I would probably say that Mission 4 is the most difficult one, especially because it is that high timed pressure, whereas most of the missions, only certain aspects are timed, or you have a lot more ability to just pause and think and read everything on your screen. Whereas for Mission 4, like it's go, 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 go.
How did you guys balance missions and puzzles being difficult at the same time, not too difficult that it ruins the gameplay experience?
Yeah, so one of the most important things for us was to make sure that we were extremely forgiving when it comes to checkpoints. Even a puzzle that might take 5 minutes to do, we're going to put in a couple checkpoints, because if you were to have to restart, it's balancing fun and frustration, because it's a puzzle game. So you've got to have a little bit of frustration, otherwise you're not doing it right. But you never want that frustration to overpower the fun. So one of the ways we really combated that was making sure that we had very generous checkpoints. We have a great hint system so that if you do get stuck, you can use the hints that we have available there for you. And yeah, we wanted it to be something that you could play with someone who plays video games all the time and still have fun, or someone who doesn't usually play video games and it's not a mechanically difficult game. It is all about communication.
Looking back now, what do you wish you could have done differently?
We were lucky enough to be able to be a part of the PlayStation Plus program. We were the PlayStation 5 Plus game for June, and that's when we launched. We launched on June 1st on PlayStation Plus as well as on PC. But because of having to meet that deadline of June 1st, we weren't able to launch on Xbox at the exact same time as launching on PC and PlayStation. So I think that the studio as a whole wishes we could have gotten all of the ports done at once. But just realistically, we would rather have to wait a little bit than have a game that has too many bugs or has a big issue, because we love our game and we want others to love it as well. And I know there's nothing more frustrating than loading up a game day one, excited to play it. And it's like, well, you can't because there are bugs. So we made the right decision in waiting. But I do think as a whole, we all wish that we could have released them all on June 1st. It just wasn't feasible.
What was the biggest lesson you learned from working on Operation Tango? Maybe something that you learned the hard way that has now changed your creative habits moving forward?
Yeah, so with Operation Tango, we were very lucky to grow very quickly. A lot of that is because of the PlayStation Plus program, as I mentioned. We are so thankful to Sony because we are just a teeny tiny studio out of Montreal, Quebec. And so having that kind of spotlight, we were immediately thrust into. We had a great Discord community of about 500 people, which over the span of a week hit 5,000.
Wow.
Yeah. So, and it's still continuing to grow. I think we're almost at 8,000 now. Of just amazing community members and people who love playing the game and communicating with us, which is my favorite part. But definitely, I think that we were expecting to have a big increase, but not quite that quick of a jump, that quick, like that soon. So I think that it definitely has changed my expectations and level of prep when it comes to managing a community that goes into the thousands overnight, which I'm so thankful for. We've got such a great group of people that even just outside of Operation Tango enjoy hanging out and getting to talk to each other. And now that we are getting through majority of launch, after the summer's over, I'm excited to be able to do more community events again. We run D&D one-shots in our Discord, movie nights, and all of that. So I think that the biggest shock to the system was just seeing how quickly everything grew. And that was something that I will be much more prepped for in the future.
When do you run the D&D nights? I have to stop by one of them.
So So we did a few before launch, and then I politely said to the community, "Hi, I love you guys. I am so busy." So we're just going to put things on hold for the summer. And then once we are through all of launch and the shows, we will get back to more community nights in the Discord. So what the process is that there will be a Google Doc sign up. And then community members can sign up to play. Doesn't matter if it's your first time playing. We're hoping to do D&D and other tabletop role-playing games, not just D&D. We also want to do community movie nights, which we've done in the past. We watched like the original Mission Impossible. And any of the like big game shows. We do a group watch of the Game Awards every year. So it's just a really great place to meet friends who enjoy video games. And, we've all kind of come together through Operation Tango and that love of co-op, whether that's co-op board games, tabletop games, or video games.
Sounds like a ton of fun. So what's next? What are you working on now?
So right now, as I said, we're just getting through all of the launch craziness. We do have our port over to our launch on Epic Games, as well as some other smaller PC platforms coming up. And then hopefully some more news about Operation Tango. And after all of that is said and done, we do have another game in the works for the studio, but that'll be a while out.
The most important question, what are you going to do with your vacation?
I'm very excited. I'm fully vaccinated now, so I feel safe doing a little bit of travel. It was my best friend's birthday yesterday, so we are actually going to Victoria, which is on Vancouver Island, a few hours away from me. We've got a hotel room. We're going to do some shopping. We're going to have nice dinners and just get to relax and reconnect after a crazy year. And just really unwind and unplug for a little while.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure to sit down with you.
And that's how the interview went down. I want to thank you so much for listening. If you want to follow Game Design Hour on social medias, you can find us on TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at Game Design Hour. You can find our sponsor, Hoffman's Woodstuffs, on Instagram at Hoffman's Woodstuffs, or you can check out their website using the link in the description. If you want 20% off your next order from Hoffman's Woodstuffs, you can use code GDH20 at checkout. If you want to see what the CleverPlays team is up to and find out more information about Operation Tango, you can check out their link tree by going to linktr.ee/CleverPlays. That's CleverPlays. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.